Smokepit Fairytales by Trip Ainsworth. Chapter 7. POKK. Back from the flames, into the Couldron. We exhaustedly climbed the rocky surface towards the light. The walls weren't slick, but it wasn't easy to get fingers and feet to hold into anything. Not to mention that we were both hauling about 60 pounds of gear. Still, we managed. The hardest part ascending the pit was the very top. The rocks turned to loose sand, and every step of the climb had to be taken more carefully. We didn't bother to take a peek around to see if it was safe emerging from the pit. I would have rather taken a bullet to the face the moment I surfaced than take any risk of falling back down into that dreary hole. We pulled ourselves to the street. The sun was falling behind the horizon. There were sharp gouges in the street, probably from pulling out the truck. The buildings across the square were demolished. The fountain was leveled, and shell casings littered the ground. Blood stained the pavement. Doc and I were alone. Doc, we should get out of here before the wrong people show up. Doc looked around.
Yeah, there's no telling how far they got.
I looked around the square. You think we should get up on a building and look around?
No, I can hear something mechanical down there. I say we head that way.
Doc pointed in the opposite direction from which we came when we assaulted. We went in the direction we were heading before the truck sank into the pit. We kept close to the walls, trying to be quiet and unheard, just in case the wrong people were around. Hands on our weapons, ready to shoot in a second's notice. The sun set and darkness engulfed the city. Neither of us had night vision and the power was out. Creeping along the streets, I whispered, "So do you think they pushed through? I mean, if they pushed out the Persians, then someone would still be around here somewhere. They're not going to move an entire regiment out that quickly."
Dude, someone's got to be around here somewhere. Why aren't there any civilians around?
I don't remember seeing any on the way in. I kicked something on accident and it went jingling down the road. We both froze in our tracks. I looked down to the dark street, trying to make anything out of the darkness.
Shell casing. We're going in the right direction.
I'm trying to see if it was ours or an AK round.
Well, either way, someone was firing here. Some Marines must have made it this far.
We moved forward. Most of the buildings weren't more than a couple of stories tall. A few of them were painted dull yellow, pink, or blue, but most of them were a sandy beige. The roads were somewhat modern. There were bullet holes in everything. Every single window had been shot out and large chunks of the walls had been blown away. We made sure to look inside the holes, doorways, and windows just in case something was there. It was too dark to see much of anything. After an hour of creeping through the streets, we heard a voice scream from the dark. "Halt! Who goes there?"
Sweet merciful Jesus, we found someone. Doc Evans and Corporal Allensworth!
Doc shouted back. We stuck our arms out to make our bodies into the shape of crosses so the sentries didn't shoot us. The voice in the darkness ordered, "Advance to be recognized!" Slowly, Doc and I walked towards the voice. A shadowed figure stepped out from a hole in the wall of a building that had seen better days. "Who are you?" the voice demanded. I told him, "Cat 1, 2nd Battalion, 7th... Okay, I'm Sergeant Duval with Fox." He motioned us to head into the building. "Get out of the open." The inside of the building was dim, but I could tell there was at least a squad in the dusty darkness. "What are you guys doing out here?"
We got separated.
"How long?"
I don't know, this afternoon? I think it was this afternoon. Whenever we came through, our truck got hit and we fell into a...
Doc didn't know what to call our ordeal. "That was you guys?" "Yeah. We've been wandering around trying to find Marines since we climbed out." "That was 2 fucking days ago." "What?" "They sent engineers down there to pull you guys out, but they only found a turret gunner in the truck. From what I heard, there was a cave or a room down there with no way out, and they didn't know where y'all went off to." Duval turned on a small red flashlight and shined it on us. "Where's the rest of you guys in your Vic?" "They didn't make it." "Oh, sorry." Duval pulled out a notebook and took down our names. "I'm gonna radio this to battalion. You guys chill out." Doc and I sat down next to a few of the other Marines and took off our helmets. We didn't talk. I didn't know what emotion I was feeling. I didn't know if I should be scared or excited, depressed or jubilant. One of the Marines from Fox Company sat beside me.
"Corporal?"
I looked over, but it was too dark to make out a face. "Who's that?"
"Eclair."
"Ah, shit, man, how are you?"
"I've been better."
"I bet." After a few minutes, Sergeant Duval came over. "Hey guys, I talked to the company. Your platoon's gonna send a section to come grab you guys in the morning. They're in a blocking position at the edge of the city."
Thanks, man.
Doc said before turning to me.
2 days.
"I know, man. I don't really want to talk about it." I pulled off my Alice pack.
What's there to talk about?
"I don't know." I pulled out an MRE. "Want some of my omelet?"
No.
Yeah, me either. I tossed the brown plastic package on the ground. I laid back in my pack and tried to sleep, but I couldn't. I didn't remember falling asleep, but I must have. A mosque somewhere near there awakened me by blaring their morning prayer. I looked around the room, now illuminated by the sun. By every hole in the sand-colored walls was a Marine pointing out his rifle. I hated the sound of morning prayer. I stood up and through a rather large breach in the wall, I started screaming, "Shut the fuck up! No one wants to hear that shitty fucking Lion King cover, you son of a bitch, goat fucking faggot motherfucker!" One of the Fox Company Marines jerked me back by my flak jacket.
Hey, Marine. Shut the fuck up. Haji's crawling all over the fucking place.
I clenched my fist and gritted. "I'm sorry, man. I'm just fucking damned." I took a few breaths and rubbed my forehead. I haven't even taken off my gloves from the night before. I'm just...
Hey, man. It's alright. We're all a little on edge. Just chill out.
Yeah, I didn't know what to say or do. We're here trying to keep these goat fuckers safe from the fucking Persians. They want to keep us up playing this fucking bullshit.
I know. I wish the guy would take some singing lessons and get speakers that didn't crack when he hollers into the mic.
The Marine produced half pack of smokes and handed them to me. I took the cigarettes. Thanks. And sat back down. Doc asked me,
You alright?
"No." I pulled out a cigarette with my teeth and dug through my pockets for the lighter. Lighting the smoke, I offered the pack to Doc.
Thanks.
Doc pulled one out. The floor was tiled and littered with debris from the walls, glass shell casings, and cigarette butts. I peered outside and there were aluminum tables and chairs, twisted, burnt, and bent in the street. I guess the place was a small restaurant and the Marines tossed out anything that could become shrapnel when they came in. I burnt through another 5 or 6 cigarettes in silence. "Hey, Marines," Duval said, standing over us.
I'm a sailor.
Duval looked at him, slightly annoyed. "You got a truck coming in about 15. "Awesome." I looked up at the sergeant. "Where's the rest of Fox at? They in the buildings around?" "No, it's just this platoon. Most of us are on this block, then Gulf's down the road a bit, and Echo beyond that. And like I said before, your platoon's in a blocking position for something, but I'm not sure where or what." Killer. Doc and I waited by the blown-out doorway for our ride. When it pulled up, I waved farewell to Eclair and headed out. From inside the MRAP, Sergeant Flores opened the rear hatch and we climbed aboard. He welcomed us back. Flores looked dog-tired. He had about 3 days of beard growing. "At least we weren't the only ones that got rode hard and hung up wet." All was silent for the next few minutes until Doc spoke up.
How far did you guys make it?
"Yeah, we pushed to the outskirts of the city," Flores said. "The city hasn't been completely cleared. We got pulled up to our position last night, and we've been checking fleeing civilians for weapons."
There been that many people running out?
"Not really. Maybe a family every couple of hours." Flores looked over us. "What happened to you guys?" "Well, we fell into a hole, man." I was dreading linking back up with the platoon. I knew everyone was going to shake us down, wondering what happened. I didn't want to fucking talk to anyone about anything. And Doc felt the same way. The truck stopped with the rest of the platoon. The sun burned down on us through the dust in the air. Doc and I found the platoon sergeant and the Surbot looking over some maps between MRAPs and a brick wall that had seen better days. "Good morning, sir," I said to him downtrodden. The Surbot looked a little bit less irate than he usually did. I guess he was happy to see us. "Just you two. What happened to the other Marines?" Knowing that if we told him, or anyone for that matter, what actually happened down there, we'd spend a decent amount of time in the loony bin talking to the wizard, I decided not to lie. But not to tell the truth either. "They fell into a cave, sir. They were too far down to even see or hear. Must let you pull out." "Fuck." The Surbot was silent for a moment. He spat a huge chunk of tobacco into the sand. "Well, are you too good to fight?" Doc and I nodded. "Yes, sir." "Okay, if you guys need anything, let us know. Have one of the other corpsmen look you over, then talk to Gunny about what truck you should be in." We sat in that blocking position for days. Scuttlebutt was that something big was supposed to happen soon. I laughed at that. I thought something big was already happening, but, what did I know? I'm just a corporal. The platoon had taken a few other casualties while Doc and I were, underground. Gunny rearranged who was in what vehicle a bit. Fonzie and Kyle returned from the field hospital. Fonz had a gnarly scar on his forehead that was bound to scare little kids around Halloween. Kyle, Fonzie, Doc, and I were assigned to the same truck with Sergeant Shar as the vehicle commander. Kyle drove. The Fonz was in the turret. Doc and I sat in the back as dismounts. We sat in the burning sun, beaten by the stick of fatigue. The heat over there is the worst on the fucking planet. You can't escape it, and while you acclimate, you never really get used to it. Right before we would go to sleep, we would all drink a full canteen. It felt like drinking liquid fucking magma. At some point, the night fire watch would wake us all up and we'd all have to drink another canteen and go back to sleep. Thirst still taunted us when we awoke. I would maybe piss twice a day. Even after drinking a gallon plus of water, my urine was still brown. Everyone was that way. Our uniforms were so soaked with sweat that if we were to take them off, our trousers could still stand up on their own with the help of the salt deposits. A logistics convoy came our way an hour after dusk one night. They brought us more chow, boiling hot, sun-baked water, a couple cases of Rippets, and mail. And, to hell with the water and chow. A Marine could live off of Rippets, tobacco, and mail. The convoy's Marines also brought their share of rumors. The Marine Corps rumor mill was still worse than the tabloids. While unloading our new supplies, we heard all kinds of bullshit. General Mattis was brought back and he's going to be the new commandant. The division sergeant major is going to authorize us to wear shorts. Ron Jeremy got a sex change. Aliens landed and they love California. No one ever put much credence into that shit, but it was fun to think about. I sat down, propped myself up against the rear wheel of a truck, and looked into the desert. I didn't want to look at Alhelia. Or whatever I thought was Alhelia. Hell, I didn't know. Maybe it was a suburb or even the next town we made it to. It's not like I could read the road signs. I lit up a Lucky and opened a letter that came that day from Kennedy.
Hank, please get this letter. I haven't heard from you in God knows how long. I know things are different, but please send me a letter or give me a phone call if you can. I'm worried about you. I heard that the fighting started over there. I'm so worried about you, it's making me sick. Reagan hasn't heard anything from Wilson either. We figure that it's because you're busy, but that makes me think you're in danger. What happens if you get hurt? How am I going to find out? I don't want you to die, then me never knowing what happened to you. I miss you, Hank. I'm so fucking worried about you. At least send me a letter. Let me know you're okay. Yours, Yasmina Gulbadan Cassandra Zidin, Kennedy.
The paper looked like Kennedy was crying when she wrote it. Small stains smeared the ink. I couldn't handle that. But I bottled up my feelings and burnt them away with cigarettes. Sometimes you do just have to chain smoke your problems away. I knew things were going to be bad when I got home, if I got home. Ever since my first deployment, it was like that. Shit goes to hell when you're out there, but you can't deal with it then. And if you do, it'll kill you. If you have to shed a tear and talk to your friends, that helps, but when you're there, you can't really deal with it. And if it doesn't kill you, it'll get the other Marines killed. I knew as soon as I got back to California, I'd buy a bottle of rum, lock myself away, and drink until I puked and fell asleep. But that wasn't here or now. That was the future, back in the real world. That's why sometimes I secretly hope I came home in a box. I would never check myself out early, but a glorious death in battle seems romantic sometimes. Hell, maybe if that happened, I'd have lucked out and picked the wrong religion, and instead of reporting to St. Peter for guard duty at Heaven's Scenes, Odin would welcome me to Valhalla. Wishful thinking. God has a sense of humor, right? I decided I'd write Kennedy back and send it to her via the next log train out of here, but I didn't know what to write. Dear Kennedy, I'm okay. I haven't been writing because why, Hank? Because I've been eating dirt and crawling on my stomach trying not to get my ass blown off? Because I've been killing people the last few days? Because I literally lost a truckload of friends? Because I almost drowned in the river Styx on my way through the gates of hell? Fuck it, she can wait. I'll write her a letter back before the next supply truck comes. I stuffed her letter in my pocket and looked back out to the desert trying to see something anyway. It was dark and there was nothing. I looked for the lights of another city until I realized the city's power was out, and so probably were any others around here. One good side effect was no power as the stars. When you go deep into the desert with no lights anywhere around you for miles, besides the occasional red flashlight and lighters, you can see every star with your naked eye. I wanted to go to space and leave the world behind. To be alone in the cosmic void, traveling the galaxy in search of new wonders. What's out there? If we ever got to the point where humanity left Earth and masses traveled to the sky, like it was the ocean in the age of sail, would we call the areas in space seas? I went on daydreaming until Kyle kicked my boot. What's up, man?
Sirbot wants to talk to us.
About what?
I don't know.
I walked with Kyle, Doc, and Sergeant Shar to where the lieutenant was. The turret gunners stayed in the turrets, keeping watch. The rest of the platoon formed a circle around the Sirbot, behind a battered wall. The Sirbot spit. All right, gents. He opened a map of the area. Tomorrow morning at 0500, we're moving out. The whole goddamn division is starting its push to the Tigris.
It's about 100 clicks to the battalion's next objective, El Numenaya. Enemy situation in the city is unknown, however. There is a base formerly controlled by the Iraqi army. Intel doesn't know if it's being utilized by the Iranians. It doesn't seem as if there's anything between here and there besides sand. The line companies are loading up in 7 tons and we're leading the battalion. We'll have a couple of tanks with us and Cat 2 will provide security on the flanks. Make sure you have ammo and you have water and chow in your fix.
The next morning we were off. We had driven for an hour. There were no words except for radio chatter. I hated convoying. Anywhere else in the world, 100 kilometers, 60-something miles, takes about an hour to travel. Not on a convoy. Especially if that one's hauling an entire battalion. I don't think any one vehicle moved faster than 15 miles an hour. I was still pissed off. So was the whole truck except for Kyle, apparently. He was up in the turret singing. Before he got to the second verse, the rest of us ended up chipping in. When it was over, we sang White Snake and Motley Crue and started to feel a little bit better. We were singing for a good half hour, creeping across the Iraqi sands before we started seeing the tanks. We pulled closer to them. Iranian tanks. Transport trucks and ground soldiers, all lying burnt, twisted, and destroyed. Smoke and flames rose from the wreckage. Vehicles lay on their sides with their operators stuck frozen in the poses of their final moment, trying to claw away. Hundreds of bodies, burnt black from fire, sprawled across the sand like toys, haphazardly tossed into a sandbox.
Looks like the Navy got to these guys first.
Char leaned his face as close to the glass as he could to get a better view.
Yeah, it's not like the Air Force could ever shoot that good.
C-130s, maybe. They can lay down some hate.
But not A-10s or F-6 fucking teens.
Char said without looking back to us. Hey, he looked up to Kyle.
Whose truck got flipped back in Nowzad last deployment?
You mean when those fucking F-16s dropped the ordnance on us instead of the Taliban?
Kyle replied.
Yeah, that.
I think it was Trujillo, but it might have been Lindman.
No, Lindman's was the A-10s.
Hey, it was Trujillo. Fonzie shouted down from the turret. What's the deal with that anyway? I mean, Fly Navy, that's cool. Marine Air, that's sweet too. Fuck, even the Royal Air Force pushes Haji's shit in. Why can't the Air Force drop a fucking bomb in the right place? Char said.
It's not the whole Air Force, Kodak. It's just the fuckers that don't know what they're doing. They're not good at being accurate. Hell, I'm all about that fucking AC-130 death machine, but I wouldn't call it in to kill anything within a mile of my position.
Yeah, I guess. I tugged on Fonzie's leg. Hey man, trade me places for a minute. What for? I want to get some pictures of this shit. Fonzie and I switched places and I pulled out my zoom lens. I took pictures of everything I could for about 5 minutes before it got monotonous. Then I crawled back down in the truck. That shit's fucking grisly. I said in almost the same manner I'd compliment the engine on a muscle car.
Yeah, you can't ever tell your girlfriend about this.
Doc said with a smile.
Why not?
Because she's Persian. I put my camera back in my drop pouch.
What?
Where'd you meet her? Strip club?
The Purple Church?
Yeah. Char laughed.
You fucking boot. She got nice tits?
Tig old biddies. We were quiet for a minute before Char led us back to...
Yeah, Iraq, Rock City.
We continued our spiel until about a mile outside of Numidia. The line company Marines dismounted their vehicles and formed a marching order. When the battalion started its slow creep into the city, Char declared,
Game time.
The Marines and the companies lined up dispersed between the trucks and tanks. We moved at a walking speed with them into the city. Another dirty, shot-up shit show. It didn't look like there were many, if any, civilians around. That was bad news. That meant that the Persians were here and the people had fled. Unless you just got done killing everyone, silence was never golden. If there are kids playing in the street and the markets are open, then you know nowhere near is likely to get shot up. Kyle stopped the truck at the first intersection inside the city lines. The line Marines started clearing out the buildings. There was no gunfire.
I don't like this.
Yeah, me either. No one's shooting. The buildings aren't completely destroyed and there's no civilians. There's no one here. Those dirty fucking Persians are here somewhere. Kyle chimed in.
Maybe they came in and all the people jumped ship. Then when Haji left the city to come after us, the air wings smoked them, and that's why nobody's home.
Char kept his eyes on the window and the buildings across the street.
The Japanese did this kind of shit in the Pacific. They'd let us take half the fucking island and pow! They'd have us surrounded and start running the lever on the meat grinder.
Kyle tightened his grip on the wheel.
Somehow, I doubt the Iranians are that smart.
There's no greater danger than underestimating your opponents.
The Marines cleared the first block of the buildings, then the next, and then the next. There was no one, and nothing there. By the time the sun started to set, the battalion had cleared the city with no shots fired and no soul seen. The battalion dug in for the night. A Marine from a passing platoon said that the bridge over the Tigris had been blown.
So they were here.
Char said as he lit a cigarette. He, Kyle, Doc, and I stood outside of our truck bullshitting. Fonzie manned the turret. I think it's cute they think they'll stop us from crossing. Doc said back,
Who knows, man? Maybe they populated the river with sea monsters or giant crocodiles, so when we swim across it, the animals will kill us.
Yeah, that's not really funny. I knew a guy that was here in '03 and fell into the Euphrates. The dude's sterile now.
Yeah, but it's probably not from that.
Doc scratched his face.
I don't know, man. Maybe he had an insurgent plankton crawl up his pee hole and suicide bomb his nutsack.
We all chuckled. Well, hey, at least we know we got him on the run.
Dude, we're America. We've got everyone on the run.
Except the Russians.
The battalion spent the night in Al Numanaya at quarter watch. With the civilian population spread to the winds, it was a nice following morning. No morning prayer blasting in my ears. A decent MRE, as decent as they can be, and no one actively trying to kill me. Word eventually was passed down that there was an Iranian division about 50 kilometers away in a place called Al-Qud. It was on the other side of the river, but the Tigris wrapped around most of the city, effectively making it a peninsula. 3rd Battalion, 7th Marines was already on the outskirts of the city, making contact. 1st Battalion was on their way to reinforce 3rd. The magnificent 2nd Battalion of the 7th Marine Regiment was to wait in Numinia for the engineers to construct some inflatable bridge, cross the river, and flank those bastards. The engineers were already working on the balloon bridge. While the sun fell into the west, we could see helicopters in the distance picking up the 1-7 Marines and flying them towards Al-Qud. We loaded into our vehicles and crossed the Tigris. When our truck started on the bridge, Shar said,
You know, I always thought it'd be harder getting over the rivers. Isn't there a ferryman or something we're supposed to pay?
That river's in Greece, man.
Doc corrected him. So if we go to war with Greece, keep a couple of coins in my pockets for that?
No, dude. Just kick the ferryman in the nads and jack his ship. That's what the Marines are for, right?
I think it's more like pirates.
That's all the Marines are supposed to be, man. Pirates with a certificate from the Department of Defense that says, License to plunder.
We rode into the night, our lights all blacked out to make it harder to see us coming. We made good time, hauling ass on the assault. We made it almost all the way to Al-Qud within an hour and a half. As we approached, we could see the city burning in the distance. The rest of the regiment was getting some. Apparently, though, 2 Marine regiments weren't enough to keep the enemy satisfied. As soon as we were in range of the city, they opened up on us. Fonzie punched the butterfly on the 50 cal. The radios erupted. Orders and interrogatives spewed from the speakers. Sergeant Shaw was doing the best he could to keep up with it all. Hey, get some, Fonzie! I shouted up at the Fonz. Doc joined in.
Hate and discontent!
I could hear the Fonz up there swearing, but I couldn't distinguish any of it. Knowing him, it was probably something extremely racist that conveyed his wishes for the Iranians to sodomize themselves while they were watching him force their sisters to perform analingus on him. More than likely in Spanish. Artillery rounds started blasting the earth around us.
Punch it!
Shar yelled. Kyle stomped on the gas and launched towards the city. The rest of the battalion followed suit, getting out of the kill zone. The buildings grew larger. Muzzle flashes shined from every window. That old familiar feeling of dread took my mind and did the only thing it ever did with that. Fuck. I squeezed my rifle. There was a bright flash, a loud bang, and then darkness and silence. Hey everybody, thanks for listening to Smokepit Fairytales Chapter 7. I'd like to thank my voice actors Chuck Lavaki, Matt Kupski-Kavasish, and Dan Brady. If you don't want to wait for me to read all these to you over here, you know this book is on Audible and then also on Patreon. I mean, all the chapters are so far for this book, because this book's out. And then I've got the script cut for the second one. What is floating over here? I've got the script cut for the second novel. Most of the individual scripts are sent out to the voice actors, so I'm right now waiting on getting them back. Today's August 25th, so, you know. But if everything goes as planned, I should be starting to release those here on YouTube, hopefully early October. Those chapters, though, will be hitting Patreon as soon as, you know, I get done cutting them, so there's that. All right, did I thank the War Chest people and Patreon people? If I didn't, I'm sorry. Thank you. I'll catch you next time.